If you're a content creator in the gaming space and you want to do more deals with brands, then this podcast is for you. In fact, if you're a content creator in any space, never mind whether it's gaming, you should definitely listen to this, because I was incredibly lucky to speak with Danny Clayton, who is the category and marketing manager at Logitech G UK, and we talk all things marketing, content creation, and brand deals. And I promise you, the information you'll get from this podcast as a creator is going to be invaluable to you in terms of how you communicate with brands going forward. If you don't know me, my name is Charm, and this is the Streamers of Consciousness podcast, where I speak to gamers, streamers, and content creators from around the world about how they do what they do. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we've got incredible new episodes coming. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you on the next one. Danny, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I appreciate you taking the time. We should start out here by you explaining who you are and where you're from, because this is a slightly different podcast to what we usually do where I'm talking to creators. So, yeah, talk me through where you're at the moment.
Well, where I am and what I do. I mean, I consider myself a creator. I still want to be part of it. But
Nice.
yeah, I'm currently leading gaming marketing for Logitech G in the UK and Ireland. So I work for Logitech, or Logitech G specifically. So like anything gaming in the UK basically like comes through me and my team, and the guys in my team. So that's what I'm up to at the moment. I am back in the day. I'm like old school social media. Was working at brands when they were using MySpace and Facebook to market their brands in social. So I've been in and around social media content. I did some seeding way back in the day before it was even called, like, I used to give headphones to celebrities and stuff like that, like that kind of stuff. I used to do some of that stuff before it even had a name for, like, it wasn't even called, we just called it gifting. But like, I come from that background of like early, anything in and around creator marketing, social media marketing is something that I've spent a lot of time in and built a career out of.
I feel like MySpace must just be like a cave of bands that people were in when they were 19.
Yeah, that's what mine is. Yeah, that's what mine is, mate.
It's all
awful,
embarrassing band
names.
Yeah. What was Charm listening to in 2005? It's that kind of thing. Nice. I mean, your history with your kind of career is fairly varied. You're in specifically a gaming track now, I guess. You know, you specifically deal with gaming and have a lot of contact with content creators around gaming.
Yeah.
Was that a goal for you in terms of getting into the gaming industry? Is gaming something that you've been a part of prior to being, like, on a personal level? Were you gaming and that stuff when you were younger?
Yeah, 100%. Music, and going back to, you kind of like teed it up a little bit with MySpace, but like,
It's like
when I was like, almost, he's sipping tea again, so maybe not. But yeah, no. So I was like, at 18, thought, my awful band on MySpace was going to be my life. Like, that was going to be my career. I was going to make it. Worked in HMV record store.
That's what you have to do if you're in a band.
Yeah, exactly. Like, loved it. It was a really cool job. Worked there for like 7-8 years. One of the best places I've ever worked, actually, by Logitech. Always been into gaming as well. Gaming and music, basically. Gaming, music, tech, anything in and around that, I'm interested. And I've always tried to... I know what I'm like. I know what my attention span's like. If I'm not doing something I'm vaguely interested in, I will switch off. So I've always tried to... And I've been really blessed in like the brands I've got to work for, but I've actively gone and sought out roles in brands where I'm either passionate about their products and what they do, or passionate about the industry. So hence why I've worked for HMV, Monster, which was like pro audio, and owned Beats for a while, like, say, like headphones and stuff like that. Ultimate Ears at Logitech, which is in-ear monitors that was for bands, and they also did speakers. Where else have I been? Firebox, which was like more quirky gifting kind of stuff. They were really like early in trying to
they were the originators of that kind of thing before it became 100% tap, right? It was...
like, they were really good. It was really cool, and it was a cool place. And I was like leading social there, so it was like, that was just basically like, do you want to come and just bait everyone on the internet with these mad products and like just do crazy stuff? And I was like, yes, please. Like, that's completely what I want to do when I worked in social, is just like have as much fun as possible and have products that you could really just like have fun with, and you knew would get a reaction on social. They always used to be in every listicle and all of those kind of things. Top 10 gifts or whatever.
Top 10 weird gifts for dads.
Yeah, and it'd all be Firebox. Yeah, no, so it was always cool, and it was really cool. It was one of them places that was really like fast paced. Like something would happen. I remember it was Game of Thrones at the time, and like the Red Wedding happened in Game of Thrones. Spoiler alert. And then they were like, oh, what if we made like I think it was like a bottle of wine, like to go alongside the Red Wedding. Obviously, it's like red, and it'd be like Red Wedding wine. And it was like 4 days later, they were like, cool, we're going to launch like this product and like blah blah blah. And I was like, I love this. Like it's kind of viral and social. Something happens, can we jump on it and make something that's like a viable, good product? So yeah, that was a fun place to work. But yeah, I've always tried to stick in and around things that I'm passionate about. Social media ended up being one of those things that I kind of just found like an interest in. I'm interested in marketing, and I work in marketing, and social media for me is like marketing on speed, in that you can just test and fail really quickly, as opposed to launching a campaign and it running for 12 months and then looking at it. Like it's quite slow when you're in like actual marketing sometimes, whereas social is fast
find
paced.
it mad that so many brands still run their marketing on seasonal calendars, where it's like, I mean, those things are important, right? Okay, sorry, putting my marketing hat on here, but those things are important, those seasonal calendars. But there's still so many brands that don't like have that kind of always on marketing that's just running all the time and is reactive and planned but reactive and jumping on things. So many people are like, we're not doing anything really until Easter. That's when we're doing our next thing. And it's just crazy that people still run marketing like that in my head.
It's mad, isn't it? It's when it follows the money a little bit, I think.
Yes, yeah, for sure. So you got marketing, social media, gaming, music. Have you ever been... You talked a little bit about having a band on MySpace and stuff. It feels like a slightly different time, pre-people being called content creators. Maybe there were still kind of artists at that point that were happened to be trying to use the internet to get in front of people. Were you ever creating content personally around those things? Was it content creation? I really hate this term. I hate the term content creation. I hate the term content creator. I think it strips all the art and skill out of it, to be honest with you, a little bit. But that is kind of what we're all called, is content creators. Did you ever do any of that stuff? Were you ever producing content yourself around those subjects, or has it always been connected to a job that you've been doing?
See, that's one of the things, and I think it's one of the things that I think I'll always regret, is that I never did my own thing alongside. Like I kind of was that I grew a brands I like, or a couple of brands I work for's Instagram profiles from like nothing to like 6 figures. Over like a year or two, when Instagram was probably where TikTok, well, maybe even not anymore with TikTok, but like TikTok was a year or two ago, where you could just grow like phenomenally. If you did some sort of okay content, you could grow really fast. And for some reason, it never twigged with me to do my own stuff and grow my own brand like alongside it. And I still to this day kick myself, and I said that I wouldn't let it happen again, and then I've gone and done it again with TikTok, where I'm so busy working on things. I'm trying on TikTok. It's just about it's just time for me. Like I spend all my time growing brands for not growing brands. I'm not like Logitech is a huge brand anyway, but like helping to grow brands for those companies and not necessarily myself. So yeah, I've definitely not been, or wasn't on the ball enough maybe, or just didn't have the drive to do it, I guess, at the time, and was so caught up trying to do my job and do a good job like growing the brand's profile, that I kind of missed the boat a couple of times. Well, twice now, Instagram and TikTok, seeing like the rise of like where it is not necessarily easy, but easier to grow on those platforms. And also I know how to do it all because I've done it and I'm doing it, and I'm actively, to your point, I talk to creators every day. And I talk to some of the biggest like social media agents, some of our agencies that we use like every day. So I know what I should be doing. It's just a classic like consistency and just doing it for like a period of time. Do you know what I mean? Like just going at something for a year, and I probably would have had impact and would have done something, but I just haven't got that. Time's a big thing.
It is difficult. I think you've touched on something that's probably important for like lots of creators to know. This might become a marketing conversation, which is at risk of being incredibly boring for anyone but me and Danny here. But
we can keep it on creators. I don't mind.
No, but what's interesting, it's important because I think I see lots of creators talking about
viewership's dropping or X, Y, and Z, this is happening on TikTok. And I think there's so many creators now that have grew up creating a brand on TikTok, and they maybe weren't around when Instagram was doing that, and they maybe weren't around when Facebook were doing that. But there is a consistent cycle with social media platforms. They start off by giving you huge organic reach. In fact, you will reach almost all of your owned audience, 80-90% of them, and beyond. And with TikTok specifically really hit on that of going, you can start a brand new account today with 0 followers and have the potential to have a video with millions of views. It's completely possible to do. And there is a cycle with social media platforms, I'm sure you'll have seen this, where it's like they are ad platforms. That's what they are. That's what they want to grow up to be. Facebook did it really well. Got a great ad engine.
Yes,
they obviously own Instagram. It's a great ad platform in terms of targeting. It's one of the best out there, I think. It's why Twitter struggled, because they struggle to monetize and ad revenue. It's a terrible platform for advertising. Questionable platform, full stop now these days, I think. And people are now saying it basically there's a cycle, right? That you need to know that eventually they are gonna take away your organic reach, and they are gonna want you to pay for advertising. Presumably that's something you've been through with Instagram. And do you expect the same to happen to TikTok?
It's already there for TikTok. Like they're already. It's supply and demand when you look at it though. Like in the beginning, all the platforms want is like content on the platform, because there's people joining the platform and not enough people when they're creating content. So to incentivize creators to create more content, to come on their platform and create content, they over egg their reach. Do you know what I mean? They'll give you extra reach as a reward, so that you come on there, you put more content on there, which then keeps the user on there. It always comes back to all the platforms want you to do is stay on the platform, or the user to stay on the platform. That's why everyone goes on about engagement or shares or copies and all of these, and copies, saves and things like that. Like all of those are just signals that your content is good. And that it will keep someone on the platform.
Yes,
that's why TikTok's like watch time and all of that's so important. Like how when people drop off, whether they complete the whole video, that's why all that stuff is super important, because all the platforms ultimately interested in is you staying on the platform. But this happens in it's the maturity of the platform. So as the platform gets mature and it gets to a point where it has the content kind of to supply to demand hits a level, it just levels off. And the creators, you used to be able to upload a dance on TikTok and get 1 million views, right? Like of just you dicking around dancing in the living room or whatever, and it would get 1 million views because there was loads of people on the platform and not necessarily loads of people creating. Because you get that. Have you ever heard the 1:10:59 or whatever it is, or 69:1? That's it, 69:1 rule. Or not 60, sorry, 90. Get it right. I'm bad at maths. Good at marketing, bad at maths. 90:9:1. So it's like 90% of people watch content and do nothing with it. So they just watch your TikTok and they just scroll past. There's 9% that will pitch in with a comment or share it, like it, that kind of thing. That's why your engagement rate's like, I don't know, between 5 and 1. Yeah, exactly. Like that, roughly that. And then there's 1% that create content.
Yeah.
So that's where you've got like that delta, as 90 kind of 99 almost basically consuming and or interacted, and then 1% that are creating, and they have to incentivize the 1% to come on their platform and create content. They do that by rewarding with extra reach. They do this. The one thing I'd say is for creators to do is always watch what the platform's talking about. If the platform is talking about, we just launched live and blah, 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 go live as much as you can, because they've obviously seen something in live holding people's attention and keeping people on the platform, and therefore they will over reward creators that use live with extra reach, right? That's why you can scroll through your feed and some random person will just come up live on TikTok like that. That's like unheard of. So like always keep an eye on what the platform's actively talking about. And what they're pushing, new features. If they're pushing a feature, it probably is because it holds attention or holds people on the platform, and therefore if you jump on it and use it, you can still ride that wave. That happens inside of TikTok. That thing you were talking about, that kind of peaks, that happens inside TikTok. It's live. It was stories for a bit. It'll be something else. Pictures instead of videos. Now it's like they're talking about having 60-minute videos. I reckon if you actually went for it and started putting up like a full 60-minute video on TikTok, you'd probably do really well. I think it'd overdo your reach because they want people to stay on the platform. They see people stay on YouTube for like really long time because they're watching a 60-minute video or whatever it is, and they can serve, to your point, multiple ads in that space.
Yes,
so yeah, it's worth keeping an eye on what the platforms are doing, because that same wave is happening, but on a micro scale inside each platform.
Yeah, I feel like there is a behavioural change that has to happen with the consumer within that platform as well, though, because, you know, ultimately TikTok spent the past couple of years training people to watch. You know, to your point, actually, it's easier to grow an account if you're doing sub 1 minute videos. What happens is everyone does sub 1 minute videos up until the point they get to 10K. Then they'll do over 1 minute videos because they're trying to monetize. It's still easier to grow with sub 1 minute videos, and lots of people. It is a short attention span platform. It's very easy to scroll through, and I think all of these things still go back to the point where, like, at a foundation, good content will win out over the long term, right? Because, like you say, in the early days, it's easy to grow. It's easier to grow. I'm not saying there's not effort that goes into that, because for sure there is some effort that goes into that. But the clickbaity stuff, the engagement farming, that kind of stuff loses out in the long term.
Oh yeah.
Because the platform wants to get into maturity, because it wants to be able to monetize, because it wants to keep people on the platform for longer. So, is that something that you see with a lot of creators starting out, or a lot of creators that have seen significant growth in the early days of a platform, that in the latter half of that, when the platform's starting to mature, that they struggle a little bit more because they've never learned the foundations of content creation?
Yeah. They just, sometimes it's like right time, right place on things as well. Like, and you've built an audience because you were there early. Sometimes, like, it is early. Early bird catches the worm on, like, those kind of things. You can get in early and be okay and do really well. There are others that notice what's working and are a bit more savvy with things, and have grown with the platform, and now have built an audience and built a kind of like the knowledge of how the platform works and what they should and shouldn't be doing on there. But there are I obviously won't name people, but there are definite creators I know and that we work with still and stuff like that, and but I've seen them stagnate because they were there early and they were doing a good job, and there were certain things that used to work that don't work, and they haven't kind of rolled with that evolution. And it is an ongoing evolution. Having been in social media ages, I've seen that curve that you mentioned like 3-4 times now. And it is a pattern, and once you recognize that and kind of remove the emotion from it, I always try and remind myself, this is free, by the way. Like, back in the day, if you wanted anyone to see anything you did, you'd have to pay for it. You'd have to pay to be on, I don't know, to put an ad in a newspaper or to run a video at cinema or whatever before a movie started. Like, this is all free. Like, you couldn't have done this before. If you wanted to be a TV presenter, which is, or an entertainment, if you're providing content or an entertainer on YouTube, it's kind of being a TV presenter or like that kind of thing, making TV programs. You've had to have done the 10-year grind at, I don't know, the BBC, being a runner, or whatever that used to be. And I think people forget sometimes this is completely free. And they're like, oh, you've removed my reach. It's like, well, you don't, like, it's the platform owns your reach, unfortunately. Yeah, that's it. And I think that's the other thing, is that so many eggs go into a single basket, and it's hard to steer away from that, because it is harder to grow on YouTube as a platform now than it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and it is easier on TikTok. But there's a reason that platform has longevity. There's a reason that the stickiness with that. I don't know, you say that on YouTube. We had I know you came down to like the masterclass event that we did. We had a panel on YouTube. I was actually listening to that thinking, right now, you could just post a video on YouTube with 0 subscribers, and if to your point, and if the content was good, it could do well. And the guys were saying that on some of their like second channels. I think if you know what you're doing there, and if you study a little bit, I think you can. I do think there is space there for YouTube. I see people come out of nowhere sometimes, like
for sure. I think there's possibility with all of these things. I guess.
I get what you're saying. It's not as easy.
Comparative, yeah. And I don't want to take away from any of those people that started off early. I think that's the other thing that people said is
foresight.
Is that when you started 2016, it was a different place, and they're having to learn new things now and change now, and I think this is the key thing with all marketing and social media marketing in particular. I think we sometimes get caught up in these individual variables, right? people, you see these social media gurus on TikTok or whatever saying, oh, it's all about TikTok SEO. You need to have this in your caption. You need to have these blah, 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 blah. And I think if you've worked in marketing in general, it's the same if you talk about SEO with websites and Google in general. It's like, okay, there are hundreds of variables that any of these platforms will take into consideration when they decide whether to push your platform. And they don't tell you what all of those things are. But you can make some base assumptions based on best practice. Yeah. And essentially you are pouring around in the dark to try and hit on as many of those variables as you can. Quality content is ultimately you're trying to show a machine, an algorithm, that this is quality content, and the only way it can really understand that from a non-human perspective is to look at all those different variables. Yeah, exactly. So that's why you have to focus on, right, what's the base of good content here, rather than going, how do I get as many people to repost this as possible? Do you understand what I mean?
No, 100%. I think people get caught up on these little like tactics, and don't get me wrong, if you've got, I don't know, if you're doing well already, if you start implementing some of these tactics as well, you can do even better for sure. Yes, like you said, you've got the ground rule is your content needs to be, everyone says quality, I always say high value, like it's valuable to the person watching it. Because I think quality, sometimes people are like,
it needs to be 4K or
whatever. Or whatever. It's not like, it doesn't matter. It's not Titanic 2 we're making. Like it needs to just be quality in terms of the value you're giving, not because I think, and ultimately the audience decides whether it's high value as well. So if the audience doesn't watch it, then that is the ultimate test of whether it was valuable or whether it was quality, so to speak, is whether the audience actually watches it.
Yeah, just trying to think about what Titanic 2 the film would be. I don't think any of it is really communicatable on the podcast. That's a whole different video.
We'll start the script. Yeah, we'll start in the background. Yeah,
we'll get back to you on that one. Okay, we talk quite a lot about content and the kind of marketing side of things, and I think there's hours worth of things we could talk about on that. Talk to me a little bit about gaming, where you started out as a gamer, and how you got into that. What was the kind of earliest memories of gaming that you had?
I was thinking about this before. I was like, I bet he asked me what my favourite game is or something, and I was like, I've got a lot of things like music, films. This is a random one, but I was listening to something from Marco Pierre White the other day, a chef, completely unrelated to gaming, but I think the context is like really like clicked for me. And he was like, it doesn't matter like how good the food is, it's generally like the setting and who I'm around. And it's like kind of like, I think it went a bit viral. I think he was speaking at like Oxford Uni or something. And it was like the setting and who I'm around and the atmosphere is like just as important as the food. Like the food can be amazing, and I think for me, some like that kind of spoke to me in terms of like things that are like really like poignant for me and normally like a moment in time. And the game was part of that. So I think about like when someone says gaming to me, like in like games and things that like earliest memories on gaming and stuff like Sonic the Hedgehog. Playing Sonic the Hedgehog with my mum, who was mad into Mega Drive, was like obsessed with Bomberman.
Yes,
and my mum was like, still to this day has a Mega Drive and plays Bomberman occasionally.
Amazing.
So that's my like earliest gaming. Well, that, and they used to, I can't even remember, maybe it was Commodore 64 or something. Like I'm old as shit. But maybe it was Commodore 64. And it used to have a Terminator 2 Judgment Day game, and I used to be obsessed with it. When I was younger, this is like a proper old school gaming. Then I used to remember playing Jurassic Park on my Game Boy. With you remember that light with the magnifying thing on it on my Game Boy? I remember doing that at night under the covers in my bedroom when I've been told to stop playing computer games. Like nothing's changed in 20 years. Like people are still saying the same thing now with phones and DS switches and stuff. Then I remember when I was working at HMV, and this is again just like all of those things are tied to a memory and the game. Like I always find, like going back to that quote, it was kind of what you were doing around it as well. Gears of War, playing Gears of War with my brother. We're not that far apart in age, so I've got like really core memories of playing Xbox 360. Getting home, he used to get home from school. I think he was like 15. I was like 19. I was working. We still lived at home or whatever. We used to get home and play Gears of War like religiously every night together. Like get in at 5 from work, Gears of War till 11, maybe eat somewhere in the middle. Then it switched to Call of Duty, and we were obsessed with Call of Duty. And that would have been like Modern Warfare, like the first actual official, not the remake one recently, and like World at War, like that one, or the kind of World War II one. I was like obsessed with. But again, that kind of goes back to just kind of core memories of playing with my brother.
Yeah.
And then I think those are like my like real like big ones that I was a mad N64 fan as well. So I've got so many memories, like really good memories of like playing N64, GoldenEye. I think GoldenEye is the one.
GoldenEye comes up, doesn't it? It's N64.
Oh yeah,
GoldenEye.
I think that got my FPS kind of like bug going. Like that's kind of where I lean when I'm gaming. I'm a bit predictable on the gaming front. Probably I'm not as story led on games sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm quite competitive, so like I kind of like the story thing gets a bit lost on me. I've played I like Fallout. We were talking about Fallout the other day, and like I liked Fallout and enjoyed the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, there has to be something else going on for me. I'm not playing like
not pure games. Not pure story cinematic guy.
Yeah, no, it loses me. Considering I'm mad into films as well, that kind of I don't know why that kind of that loses. Last Guardian was probably like the last thing I actually played with like an actual story to it.
Right, okay. So not I mean, what are the big ones that usually get mentioned are stuff like Last of Us, Red Dead Redemption 2. Not there for that?
No.
Straight over your head. I mean, you know what? At least you own that. At least you own that.
I'm not gonna claim I'm a certain type of gamer and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna there's no point me forcing it. I think someone got me to buy, I think one of my mates, who again just whenever anyone says gaming, my mate Baz like flashes up in my head. Shout out to Baz. Yeah. But he is like hardcore, and he'd be like, "You have to get this game," and I'm like, "All right, I'll get it," and I'd get it, and I'd play it for like half an hour, and then I'd be like, no, not really for me, mate. Like, well, I can't remember. I think it might have been Red Dead, and I didn't not enjoy Red Dead, but I think I've got a short attention span anyway. So I think TikTok was perfect for me. So I think like FPS and stuff like that, where it's like super quick, like respawn, go again, like kind of thing. I think it's just how I enjoy gaming.
There's definitely some of those games where it's I think there's games that you have to really spend time getting your head around, and if that's not your bag, then it's difficult. Like I remember my mate lent me on Switch Zelda. Was it Breath of the Wild, the first one, or was that the second one? The first big open world.
Yeah.
And I was playing it, and I just spent about 2 hours. I kind of came across this big rock monster. I spent about 2 hours fighting him. I'd never played an open world game before. I was completely noob to gaming, really. It was only PS5 that I really got back into it. And I was like, mate, I don't get it. I've been trying to fight this massive rock for 2 hours with it. All I've got is a stick. And he was like, well, just leave it. Go away and do something else. I just could not get my head around it. And then, it wasn't until I got into like other open world games. I think, like Red Dead, it's like, unless you're going to spend... unless you're going to spend 3 hours going... Because so many people, I know people who started playing it, it's like, it's so boring. It's such a boring game. I go, did you get past chapter 1? No, that's the most boring bit of the game. It's like, you have to spend 2 or 3 hours getting your head around it. Otherwise, you never.
Yeah.
But if you're not that way inclined,
like I'd play GTA. I played the last like few GTAs. I think that's a bit of a like gimme sometimes. Like I'm like a generic lad gamer. Like it's probably how if there's probably like if you had to put me in a bucket or something, whether good or for better or worse. Like and GTA. Me and my wife actually, who's not really a gamer, but she loves. Again, I think this is where like gaming sometimes connects. Is like her brother was mad into GTA and he's a mad gamer. And she used to play that with him when she was younger. So when when we first moved in together, she was like, and I was like playing Warzone or whatever, probably not even Warzone, but she was like, oh, this is like boring or whatever. She was like, I'd play Grand Theft Auto, and then we ended up buying GTA 5, the last one. And we ended up playing the whole thing, just passing the controller backwards and forwards, doing a mission each, and like that was like, so there are like, again, that's like a core memory for me, like with my now wife, playing GTA in our first house. We must have spent like 6-7 weeks just smashing through the whole story on that. So I will play a story game, but GTA is like a bit.
It's kind of the balance between story and kind of it's a shooting game. It's a heist game, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
it's kind of very. It's one thing after the other. I think with something compared to like Red Dead 2, where it's like there's a lot of open space in between things. There's a lot of time that you can spend doing absolutely nothing. Whereas GTA, it's like there's another heist to do imminently. Yeah. You've got to get it done now. I mean, I'll be honest. I played GTA when I was a lot younger, and I didn't even realise there were stories to it. I just, it was for me that game when I was. I don't know how I was, like 10 or whatever. It's about seeing how many people you could get chasing after you at any one time. That was all that game was about. But I think it's fine. It's fine. I did a whole thing a couple of months ago where I had so many people debating about what a gamer was. I did a typical TikTok post where it was like, gamers are boring. Everyone's only playing 3 games. Like, I think the PlayStation stats had come out, and everywhere in the world, like apart from Japan, they're just playing Fortnite and Call of Duty. And I was like, there's so much out there. Yeah. And then there's a big debate about what a gamer actually is. And people are... I don't know if you know about this about the internet, Danny. People are opinionated. They have got opinions.
It's weird. People enough pipe up on the internet, don't they? Everyone's got an opinion on everything on the internet. It's fine when you're behind a keyboard or you're behind your phone. Like anyone can spout out anything, can't they?
Yeah,
you wouldn't do it in the street. Yeah, kind of thing. Days Gone was the one I forgot that I just literally Googled in the background. I was like, what was the last game I actually played with a proper story that I really enjoyed? Yeah. Days Gone is the last. My wife came home and I was in the dark in the front room, like playing it, and she came through the door and I literally jumped and I was playing Have you played Days Gone?
I'm playing through it now.
Oh, okay, cool. So I was playing. Have you got to like the tunnels yet? The first tunnel. Like where you clear like a car out
you clear the
cars, go through the tunnel. Yeah. I did that, and then 1 or 2 jump out on you, and I was on edge, and playing in the middle of the dark. And she came home from I don't know wherever, and I literally was like, why'd you do that? And she was like, what are you doing? Why are you in the dark playing this game? And I was like, it felt scarier in the dark, so I was playing it in there. I really enjoyed that. That's probably the last game with it. Again, that's like Grand Theft Auto. I feel like it kind of pushed you through the story while still being open world. I think that's as far as I go.
Yeah, it felt like the amount I played, it feels like Last of Us, but it's faster paced and it's more action packed, and there's a bit more kind of like the mechanics in it are a bit quicker. Whereas like Last of Us is very much like crawl around this corner because if they hear you, you're dead.
Yeah, see, I've tried shooters like that as well. What was that one ages ago? It was called like Operation Dragon or something like that. Something like that. Someone's going to jump in the comments and correct me. And it was meant to be like real world. FPS, and you were just there was a whole mission, and I remember coming back in, and this was when I was at HMV. I came back into work, and there was quite a few of us in there that were gaming at the time, and I'd bought it. It was Operation Flashpoint something Dragon. I can't remember the bit. Check it out. It was a good game. I remember I played the first mission. I was like, yeah, it was all right. Shot a couple of people. I got shot, and then you had a certain amount of time before you like bled out. Like there was like no med packs or anything. Like it was just like. Go if you get shot, like that's it. You have to start the whole mission again, and the mission would be like 45 minutes. It was really cool. It was different, and I remember I got stuck on like the second mission. I came back in, and one of the lads was like, "You do realize you're not meant to like shoot anyone?" And I was like, "I'm out." He was like, "You're meant to just sneak through," and I was like, "What is the point?" So yeah, I've definitely got a thirst for action and speed when it comes to games.
I feel like when I watch people playing like Tarkov and stuff, I'm like, I can't get my head around that. It's like it's
I'd open fire immediately.
It's just not for me. So you're now in this position where you've been gaming for years. You've been working at various different brands and social media, and you're now in this position where you are. I noticed actually you worked at Logitech in the music section. Is that right?
Yeah, been here 7.5 years. Yeah,
and then a little gap, and now you're like. Purely in the gaming, is this like the perfect Venn diagram of Danny, where it's like you've got tech with Logitech there, you've got gaming,
creators,
and presumably a lot of creators a big part of it, and social. Is it the ideal situation?
Yeah. It's like it's not a million miles away if I could build. Obviously, there's always things in roles that are like. I just said numbers. That's something that I'm trying to like get better at. I'm just boring. I'm never going to be a competitive Excel player. But like yeah, I think that there's always things like that in a job, and I think that's fine. But like, yeah, I think this is a perfect amalgamation of like things that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
I love chatting to creators. I love hearing. I'm just so actively interested. I'd list social media as like a hobby of mine or an interest point, which sounds a bit mad to be like interested in Instagram, and I don't mean interested in scrolling it. I'm like interested in what's working, what's not working, that kind of stuff. What's going on? Why is that happening? So yeah, no, I would say it is like the perfect combination. I've been at Logitech 7 years. Funny story, actually. I did 7 years ago when I joined. I ended up doing a music role, like looking after Ultimate Ears, which are these. Well, it wasn't these at the time. We like had got one on my desk handily, like the boom speakers. Most people would know that. So that like still owned by Logitech and still like a really cool brand, really good products. So I started here doing that because I was really into music, I actually applied for a job. I applied for this job I'm doing right now 7 years ago and didn't get it.
Someone else got it.
Someone else
slowly,
got it.
You slowly chipped away at them.
Slowly worn them down, and now I'm in the job. Yeah, it only took me 5 years, and I've been in this role like 2 years. But yeah, I knew I wanted to be in gaming, like or in or around either gaming or music, like I said. And I was doing that with the speakers, and that was all around like a lot of like where their target market was around like travel. So that was a lot of working with like travel influencers and like YouTubers and stuff like that. That was proper like influencers. Like you said, you don't like using the term content creator. I much prefer it to the word influencer. There was a lot of people in that space, especially that were just like product. There's a post on my Instagram somewhere of me holding that speaker and like smiling. Yeah. And it was when TikTok launched, and I did a post, and it was me holding that speaker, smiling, and I said, "This is dead." Like, because I was just like, once TikTok came along, I was like, you can't do that anymore. You just holding a product and smiling and being like, this is whatever product, and I absolutely love it. I was like, that's gone. Like that was easy back in the day.
In the marketing world as well, it's very. This is why there's so much tiptoeing around. It is very different working with a content creator than an influencer. I think there was a lot. I think Social Chain did a whole thing around scanning. They had a tool that would scan some of the top influencers and see how many real followers they had. And we used to do a lot of work around going, you've got 8 million followers, but your last post got 50 likes.
Why 70% of them in Indonesia? Like, that would always be like the thing, or like around, like,
just like, big in Southeast Asia.
It'd be a random place, and you'd be like, that's a bit weird.
Yeah, and there was a lot of that, and there was a lot of kind of, I suppose influencer fraud was probably what Stephen Bartlett was calling it at the time. It's that kind of thing. And also it was, a lot of influencers also tried to launch their own brands, and it did not work. They could not sell a single one of their own products. So it was always a big question mark around that. So I think I've talked quite a lot about when you hire a content creator, like a true content creator, you get an editor, a graphic designer, a script writer, a videographer. You get all of these things. Because you just have to have your fingers in almost all of those pies in some way. I'm not saying every content creator is the best editor. There's some people that just do it's to camera, minimal cuts, etc., etc.
I love
then
that.
You've got
that's me. That's where I want to go because I'm lazy.
They're great, and then you've got people who are kind of in the middle of that. People like Ben Caluso who's like doing, it's beautiful editing, really well lit, really, but it's also really valuable. And then you've got the people who are just incredible editors on the, there's a whole range of different people there.
But a million ways to do it, yeah.
They all have to have some element of all of those skills, as opposed to an influencer who's very much just, an influencer of the past, which is very much just like, I'm on a private jet to...
Yeah. I hated that as well. It was like... Yeah. There was a point where like, and this is why I've always referred to the people that we try and work with as like content creators, because I felt like they were, or actually people that I previously said that it was like people that are passionate about something and happen to have an audience that is also passionate about it. Like that's how I look at it. You're passionate about gaming and you have an audience that's passionate about gaming. Yeah. You've not set out, which is what a lot of influencers or some influencers did, which is like they set out to have influence.
Yes.
Like they were setting out to build an audience to then push them to buy stuff. Yeah, like that was a lot of some creators, not all of them, but and it wasn't so much in gaming, it was in other categories. Set out to build an audience to be able to influence people and then be able to get paid by brands to influence, and that was where it got a bit like it felt a bit dirty.
I think my issue is less with the word creator. I don't mind the word creator. I feel like content sometimes lessens what is produced. It's like if you watched a good TV series and you like. I said this before. I watched a Martin Scorsese film. Martin Scorsese, great content. It's like no, that's film.
I get you.
And I think there is stuff that is,
does it,
it's
does it
content.
disservice a little bit.
Yeah, but I think some things like I just watched a 3-hour video by Dan Mace, who does like Mr. Beast's editing, like huge, just incredible. It's a 3-hour video.
Wow.
And I think, and it's like the most detailed, any content creator, especially on YouTube, I recommend you watch it because he goes through every element of this is how we script, this is how we shoot, this is how we edit. Really,
Send
really
me that
detailed.
after. Yeah.
I will send it to you. It's honestly
Love
blown my mind.
Mm-hmm.
You need 3 hours to watch it. I'm watching it in kind of segments. But to call that content to me, I'm like, I feel like I'm shitting on what he's done there. That is
I get you.
that is such an amazing piece of work that he's done. That it's,
like
I think that's my issue. So this is my own thing with trying to justify to myself what I am in real life. It's like I don't like. I like to think of myself as an artist, which is maybe an ego thing.
You are. I get it. I get where you're coming from.
But yeah. Anyway, I get that. So I've taken us up on a right tangent here, mate. Sorry, this is like one of my streams now. So you were talking about the kind of difference between the content creators and influencers, and I think you're right. People now have this. You kind of set out, for me anyway. It's like I love this thing. I'm doing it a lot. I want to share that with
Share it with the world,
yeah. And I want, like, my whole thing at the moment is, I want to build a community that everyone wants to be a part of, that everyone loves to be a part of, like a really inclusive community, and it happens to be around gaming.
Yeah.
And all of the content that I produce, everything that I produce, my vision is to go, this has to add value to them. Like, what is that giving to them, as opposed to what can I get out of them, if that makes sense.
Mate, literally that is how I set out with like Logitech G in the UK. It's how the brand is anyway. Like, that's why we did Masterclass. Like, that's why we did something that was not we felt like every other brand, and like it obviously spawned from like conversations I've referenced before with Kadeo, like a creator, was like, this was really cool, like we should do more of this kind of thing. And we were like, okay, cool, but let's do it. But it also now is like, we never ask anything from anyone coming. Like, it's never come to our launch of our product and you need to do X amount of posts and blah blah blah. It was like, what can we do that's going to help? And that's always been the goal of that, is to be, it's just a straight, let's do something for the community that does so much for us, and like we ask a lot of sometimes in terms of what we're doing with like content creators and stuff like that. So I think it's just one of those where it's like, it was trying to do something of value, and it's hard to
actually
do.
The results are often better when you do it that way, right? When it's
just comes from
because everyone's talking about, certainly in the creator community anyway, I was very, very felt very, very lucky. I got introduced by another creator into the event and managed to come, as the first event to attend as a creator. It's like, wow, everyone's talking about this. Everyone's there. Like, it's good. If you stood at the gate of that thing and watched people walking in, it's the equivalent of scrolling through my For You page. It's like a constant stream of really amazing creators at that event.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a good crowd as well. Like, I feel like, because it started quite, I think we had like 40 people maybe at the first one, 50 people. Yeah. And I always joke and say, I refer to it as like how you were invited. I refer to it as Fight Club. It's like kind of like, you wouldn't know. We kind of said to everyone, like, this is just for you guys, like, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, well, actually, like, I've mentioned it to my friend. Like, can I vouch for this person? They're cool. They get the vibe. They get what's going on. They see what you're trying to do. And I think they'd be beneficial, and they might have a good question, or they might have good insight that would help the group. And it's become like that with it, where it feels like a bit quite community driven, as like, I'm bringing someone else in because I feel like they get it and they get what we're trying to do. Not exactly Fight Club, but you get where I'm going.
You did make us all fight though.
Yeah, that was the best bit. That's always the best bit. That YouTube video is coming soon.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely work. It would definitely go viral. That would. Creators fight it out to get the latest Logitech camera. I'm up for it. I'm there for that. So just on the creator side, you obviously work with creators day in and day out. You probably receive hundreds of pitches, if not thousands of pitches every year from various different creators. I've seen millions of media kits.
Millions.
Every possible kind of variation of creator interaction I'm sure you guys have had at Logitech. We won't name any names here because I don't know anybody. But I am interested to see if you want to name names. That's fine. I might make the podcast get a few more views.
Yeah, there you go.
What's the biggest mistake, just in general, broad brush? What's the biggest mistake that you see creators make when they're approaching a brand? And the reason behind this question is, I actually don't think people gatekeep as much as is on the surface. Most creators are very, very open about how they do things. I mentioned Kadea there. She's got a great kind of creator corner in her Discord. She's very, very open, not only about how she gets in front of people, but her rates and all those various other things. It's been very, very open. I've got multiple content creator friends and we all support each other. It's all about, hey, this worked, that worked. But it still does feel like how you get in front of brands, how you talk to those people. It's a big part of being a creator full time is going, how do I work with more brands and get more of those deals? What's the biggest mistake that you see people making when they're approaching brands to get their foot in the door?
Yeah, a couple of things for me that stand out as things that are like, not red flags because they're not like bad, but they're things where I'm like, ugh, like kind of thing. I'll quite often get an email that's like, hey, love your like brand, blah, blah, blah. I'm obsessed with your products, blah, 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 blah. Like, I will go on your Twitch and I will spend an hour whilst I'm doing some work with your Twitch streamer. And I will watch what you're using and watch what you're talking about and how you're talking and stuff like that. I said it joking around. I've got a 2-year-old and she's obsessed with Monsters Inc. And my wife was at masterclass and I said, always watching. And she was like, you sounded like Roz from Monsters Inc. Like, they're always watching. But me and Morgan we do watch what you guys are up to and what you're doing. And the amount of times some of the creators reached out and been like, I absolutely love Logitech products. Like, I'm obsessed, blah, blah, blah. And I go on there and they've got every other brand going's product on there. And it's like, reach out to that brand and say like, I love your thing and like I want to do something with it. Like be authentic. Everyone always talks about being authentic and then they do stuff like that and I'm like, that's not the most like technically like authentic thing from like a creator standpoint. So I definitely think reach out to teams and things you're already using, I think is like a big one for me. I think the PDF, don't send me I've said it, Teeny will see this somewhere and she'll be like, he said that to me on the first masterclass. Don't send me a PDF. The amount of times as well I get an email that's like, I want to work with your brand. Here's my PDF. I'd love to do a partnership. And I'm like, I get 50 of them a week. And like, I'm sure you're amazing and what you do is like really valuable. But make it really easy for me or really easy for Morgan, who handles like a lot of the incoming on that side of things. As we get so many, is like, I absolutely love, I don't know, the Yeti GX mic. I stream 5 days a week. I create all this content. I'm doing a podcast or whatever. Like, I'll make sure we get you one.
Let me just take a note of all these things.
Like, I do a podcast. Like, it would be used on it quite a bit. Like, this is what I could do. This is what it would look like. Blah blah blah. Depending on how big you are, do you know what I mean? I charge this. I don't charge this. I'm just getting started. Whatever it might be, and reach out with like and I will do X, Y, and Z. It could cost this, or I just want the product, or whatever it might be. And just send me like a real clear, like, I'll do this, you'll get that back. Bang. Can I do it? And a lot of the time, if you align that to what we're doing at that point in time, if I've just announced this product, it's the same as the platforms. If I'm talking about something and it's important to us, chances are we've probably got scope to do stuff with creators with it. And that is where, when you reach out, sometimes on a cold reach out, people will be like, or you've got the older version. That is a great example as well. It's like, I'm a massive fan of the G502. I've just seen you've launched the G502X. I'd love to get one and do an unboxing or do a review, or like, I've got an idea for a series, blah, blah, blah. That kind of thing is so much better than just getting, I'd love to work with you. It doesn't give me anything, and if I find it, and then I've got to go back, and then you're going to come back, and then you're like, what products can I? And like, you're again content creator, like you've got ideas, you've got cool things you want to do. Come at me with those as well. Like, come at me with, like, I'm doing something I think it'd be relevant for the product that you're talking about right now. Can I get involved? I think that one's like a massive one that creators miss. It's always just this really like broad, can I work with you? Or how do I get signed by Logitech? One I get asked all the time. It's like, I literally don't have anyone signed like permanently in the UK right now. Like, I mean, we've got global people, but like,
I think the use. I think a couple of people have said to me like the use case thing is like an incredibly important thing. It's like, I think someone said to me they'd seen that I was doing stuff, out in the world, not sat here. And they were like, so this product or this product, this is supposed to be a lightweight thing, and you can carry it around and whatever. That would be a good use case for this product. Like if you're doing stuff in your garden and everything's not, you can't have everything wired in. You just need something you can move around easily. That is a use case for that thing. And I think exactly like you said, isn't it? It's the content idea come with the idea, I guess, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like,
And
I
try
want
and tie
to do
it
this
into
in
what we're
order to be
doing.
able to do that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and tie it into what we're doing. If it's important to us right there and then, chances are there's scope to get involved in it, and chances are we're already doing something around it, and probably Morgan's already looking for the right people to work with. It might be that we don't think you are the right person right now for that product, but at least we know you can come with something, and you can come with an idea, and a lot of the time that's it. That like I get, like you said, you get hundreds of people with just like, here's my PDF and here's my rates and blah blah blah. Yeah. Okay. Like I don't know what to do with that. Then I've got to get on a call. We'll have a chat. Yeah. I don't know where it's going to go. Whereas like a test project that's probably what I'm saying is like I'm pitched to get in with like a test project of like, I'd love to do this. It'll be the first thing we've done together. See how it goes and see if everyone's happy, because that's how we like to work. We like to work with people that genuinely actually use and like the products, or just want to check out the products. Even that, in the first instance, I'm a creator, I do X, Y, and Z. I'd love to try this product out. We're always open to that, and then that's a great foot in the door of like, I absolutely loved it. I've got this idea for whatever. Can we have a chat? And then I'm like, yeah, no, that makes sense. I like you. We trust you because you've done some cool stuff already on it. Everyone always just goes in with like, again, Teeny will find this funny. I don't even know Teeny, but like, she'll find this funny because I said at the first masterclass, we actually did a panel where we had 3 brands. It was me, Intel, can't remember the other brand, but there's 3 of us from brands on there, and everyone's just asking questions on like how they could work with brands. So it's kind of this thing. And the first thing I said was like, you wouldn't just go up to someone and say, "Can I marry you?" Yeah. Like that's what creators are doing right now. They just come over like, "Can I marry?" And I'm like, and then Teeny tweeted me after and was like, "Can I marry you?" Which is quite funny. Great sense of humour. But yeah, no, you wouldn't do that. Like you've got to kind of like go check whether you get on, check whether you've got things in common, then go on dates. Like it takes years. Like some of the creators that we work with, like has come from, I gave you a product once to then we did a project together. Then we did a couple of projects. Then next thing you know, you're on a panel at Masterclass. And then after that, we need a face for a campaign. And you're the perfect person to do it with. And we grew together and we trust each other. And
I don't think anyone's ever said to me, I have the perfect face for a campaign. unless you're doing something that's like a before and after. It's like someone who's really fell off. I mean that's interesting. I think it kind of I think like logically, you take a step back, it makes absolute sense. I think I think there's a couple of difficulties. One is that you've got so many creators going, never do anything for free, and I'm kind of the opposite of that. Going, actually, for me, just starting out, I think I think you always view your own content of going, I think I'm doing good stuff and I like what I'm doing and I've got a good vision and blah blah blah. But also, I know if you, I'm going to use Kadea as an example here because she's a big creator. She works very hard. She's got lots of brand deals. She's doing great stuff. She's got a big following. She's at a point in her career where she's like, hey, exposure, and I've got all the proof to get you in front of lots of people. Exactly. Me, it's like, well, things are up and down for me sometimes. Sometimes I have stuff that, does 2 million. Sometimes I have stuff that does 2,000. It's I can't sell you exposure because I don't have those creds yet. But what I want to get my foot. I want to work with you guys. I like what you do, and I think using the product, it's sometimes difficult. But for me, just the stuff that I've built up over time. For example, I happen to have a Blue Yeti microphone in front of me, and that's not because it's for no other reason than that's the mic that I have to do this. There's various products that I've used over time. That is a much easier conversation to get into rather than a vague. I really love what you guys do.
Honestly, I've had creators from 1,000 followers to 1 million followers reach out to me with that. I get managers reach out to me with huge creators that say the same thing, and it's like, I don't know, like it just doesn't fill me with like any inspiration or catch my attention. You're trying to catch my or Morgan's or our attention, and that's what I'm saying. Maybe tie it in. I think tying it into something the brand's already talking about, or has just launched. This product's just come out. Chances are they're going to want to get it out there and want to show people. whenever a product launches here, we get samples. We can get stuff to people. Like it's a great way to do it is to reach out when you see something announced. And some creators are really good at that. But like, I've said this numerous times. I've never read a PDF that a creator sent me, like ever. I'm being dead serious as well. I said that on the panel. People might find that a bit disrespectful or whatever, because I know people put a lot of work into them. But it's generally like all built on relationships for me, and like I think that starting that relationship is really important. Also, come and just say hi as well. Like that was something that someone actually said that to me from masterclass. Another creator was like, people were coming over and just like pitching to me at the event. I was like packing stuff away, like, and then people coming over and like pitching stuff, and I was like, well, like again, going back to that, like, like. Don't ask me to marry you straight away kind of thing. Like just come over and say hi, thanks, my name's so and so. Like I think we had a brief conversation at masterclass, but like and then now like you invited me to be on the podcast, which is amazing. And like that's
all
just
part of my grand plan, Danny.
If I'm honest, it's not a bad shout. I'm not a bad shout. Everyone's got an ego.
Step one, create a podcast. There's no other guests on this. It's just you, mate.
I've seen other people. I mean, if it was very like long-winded.
Yeah, it's a big long.
Yeah, it's what you're.
I mean,
we'll sign you now. Yeah.
It's how to get a global contract with Logitech. I think that's a verbal contract. I joke here because this whole thing for me is like talking to interesting people. Number one, but I think there's so many different opinions in the creator space specifically, and hearing from the brands. I think number one, remembering you are a person.
Just normal human.
You are a person, and that's,
vaguely. Yeah.
I think part of it is like an insecurity on the creator side because you don't know what you're doing. I'm quite lucky because I've worked in, corporate marketing places where pitching and building relationships and selling things to people and receiving pitches has been part of my career for the past, 10, 15 years. So you come into this space with a little bit of knowledge of how to approach these things. But I think for a lot of creators, number one, I think it's really prevalent that people have a lack of confidence in the work that they're doing in themselves. And I think that's, there's a lot of creators that are very introverted. So,
100%.
Reaching out to people, number one, is difficult. And then not feeling worthy. So I think a lot of the, hey, could we maybe do something together? And, is rather than going in and going, hey, here's the things that I can do for you and being really confident, I think you've got to have like a bit of healthy ego about you to go,
definitely.
I am, and knowing your worth. Like for me, like for example, saying, "Hey, don't think I'm ready for you guys to pay me to do something yet." But there's definitely, I think I could definitely add value to.
I think people take knowing your worth as meaning I am worth money. Like, it could be you're not right now, and that's fine. Yeah. But come on the journey with us. Like that's kind of like we've got so many creators that we gave a product to 3 years ago, and now are huge, and now we work with. Like, it can work like that. Like it doesn't have to be like, knowing your worth. I don't want to say like. Knowing that you could not be worth that much right now, but that long term that relationship could be worth a lot, right? Like, and it could be worth a lot for both sides. Yeah. So there's
always got to be
understanding.
Yeah. I think if a brand is coming to you and saying we want you to do 10 videos, and we're going to send you.
What's it going to be used for as well is the other thing. A lot of the time.
Exactly.
100%.
If you want to do 10 videos that you can't post on your own profile and they're going to use it for advertising,
charge them.
Just go, hey, you can hire me as an editor if you want, like for sure. There's a cost to that. Listen, man, I think it's a bit. I think I could talk to you for 10 hours just about the marketing stuff because it's it's my bag, and
I've got probably another couple of minutes. An hour. I've got a little bit of time, but not 10 hours.
So I think the information you've given is so valuable. Just in general, outside of the kind of pitching to brands and stuff, because I think that what you've said is so helpful, and I think it'll be really helpful to so many creators. But what do you think most creators are missing in terms of the work that they're doing? What the content that they're putting out. Do you think there's like real clear areas where it's like why is nobody doing this thing in the gaming space or in the creator space?
I was thinking about this earlier randomly actually, or yesterday. I don't think there's anyone.
I'm not going to publish this. I'm going to steal it from. I'm going to gatekeep
it. Gatekeep this. There's one big one that came up the other day, and we're live on TikTok Shop with Logitech G, not messing around, but like more testing it out than anything.
Yeah,
How could we make this work? I don't think anyone in the gaming space has done what other people have done in like beauty and like home and stuff like that. And TikTok Shop's still in its infancy, so it is still like Amazon way back when, where it's just like a lot of cheap stuff. But there are brands beginning to like appear on there. Like you've seen people selling £200 coffee machines and stuff like that on there. Like
I think like Razor's on there as well.
Yeah,
there's definitely some bigger players on there.
That's going to be more and more like a thing for brands. Like brands are always when brands are like, I think a lot of people feel like affiliate programs are just like a way for brands to just take from creators and not like and give like a tiny bit back. Sometimes it is a bit of a test as well. Like, can you at times talk about a product and your audience trust your opinion and might go and buy it or might go and check it out, or like, do you know what I mean? That kind of thing is always like important for us. Like ultimately, it is a business that we work in.
Yeah,
and
of course,
I get asked like impressions are amazing, but like it's great when you get a lot of impressions and like 2 headsets get sold. Like that's really cool. It's great to see that eventually we know that those impressions might be worth even more down the line, like because you do have a bit of influence over like the audience, so to speak, going back to influencing. So like I think that like no one's on this. I don't think no one's on there anything on selling gaming stuff on there or figured out how to do it. Gaming and tech, it's all just cheap shit phones and whatever, like that kind of stuff on there. I do think if someone went on and just started getting gaming stuff on there and doing a 2-hour live stream of like gaming gear and testing it out and stuff like that, I think they could absolutely kill it, because I think all of the gaming brands would be all over it. So I think it's one for that someone could jump on and really like make the most of it for sure. And I think on that as well, like I think so many people just do the same thing when it comes to products as well. I think it's not a frustration, but it's something I'd love to see more of from creators. Is like we'll give them a product and they'll do an unboxing and do a thing where they hold it up to camera and talk about it, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, is it like I'd love it when people come with more creative things, going back to like I've got this idea, like I'm going to, I don't know, do whatever with this product and see if it can take this. Do you know what I mean? Like you get it with other products where it's like I'm going to throw this off a cliff and see if it still works like after, like or whatever, like that kind of thing. Or I'm going to set myself a challenge of like 50 kills in an hour on whatever game, or like this kind of thing, and I'm going to do it all with this new mouse to test how fast it is and like blah blah blah. I'm much more interested in that than I am you doing an unboxing, which everyone does, and it's just like I think it's saturated. And or like that's what I said, like the gaming thing where it's like selling stuff. Like, oh, I'm going to build my setup live on stream, and I'm going to tag each product on TikTok Shop. I'm going to go through it with each product as I go and talk about it, and then I'll take it apart, and then tomorrow I'm going to rebuild it with different products or whatever. Like, I honestly think someone could. Please, someone go and do this, because I will pay you to do it. But if you get big enough, but like I would be 100% behind that, because I don't think anyone's jumped on it, and I do think there's a space there. I think people do setups and stuff like that, and like do setup makeovers and that kind of stuff. But doing it and plugging parts of it into TikTok Shop, I think there would be such an audience there for it. I think a lot of the time people do the same things that they've seen done before. And I think that you can be brave in some instances and do something slightly different. And I do think that catches attention with brands. And brands we're not interested in just selling stuff, but ultimately it is a business. And like when you can sell things, like it's a bonus. And I'm not saying that you need to sell 8,000 mice like off of like one post or whatever, but the odd sale and stuff like that coming through from someone's affiliate is very like, oh, okay, like that person can actually kind of, their audience is really engaged and they are using their discount code occasionally. It is powerful, and it is something that I think gets overlooked a little bit. Yeah,
I think you're right. I think there's a thing of going, because of TikTok Shop being in its infancy, and I know I've worked with big brands previously outside of gaming in the e-commerce space where they're like, we need to be on TikTok Shop. It's huge, and I think people also most people don't realize how big an industry TV shopping was, like insane. The QVC channels. It's insane. I mean, there are brands that were made on TV shopping. They sell hundreds of millions of pounds worth of product, and live shopping on the internet still hasn't been perfected by any means.
And it doesn't even need to be shopping as well. I think people always think this as well. They think you need, and everyone thinks this with everything. They go to the first point of reference. So it's like, what is it? It's live shopping. Cool. I'm going to do QV. I'm just going to stand there and talk about the product. Like, as opposed to, you get people like now on Shop, like just go live and they're packing other people's orders.
Yeah.
And that's like the thing. And I was like, someone came up with that, which sounds like a shit idea in the first instance. Like, I can just so I've sworn a couple of times on this. You may
You're
not
absolutely fine, mate.
Cool.
Fine.
Fucking
brilliant.
Brian.
We will cancel you after this.
But no, like everyone just assumes like, oh, okay, they're sending me a product, I should do an unboxing. It's like, it doesn't mean that. Like, it can, like, be creative with it. We're working, to your point, you're working with someone that is an editor, a creator, has ideas, is creative. Like, be creative. Like, we love that. Obviously, there's always a couple of things we need to have happen. Do you know what I mean? But I do think there is, within that brief, there is always room to be creative. And I feel like, someone should do that on Shop. So to do something different, like I said, just take your PC apart every single night, all the peripherals, everything like that, and get a different setup from TikTok Shop from a different person on there. Set it all up, test it all out, see what you think, give an honest bit of feedback, chat about how you're setting it up, why you're setting it up like that. Make it not selling, because I think no one wants to be sold to. Do you know what I mean? A second, you know that thing when you're in a shop or like you're going to I don't know, I was looking at cars the other week, and someone comes over, do you need any help there? And you go, no. And actually, I did, but I just didn't want someone. I didn't want someone trying to sell me a car. I just wanted to have a look at it, and I wanted some information, maybe, but I didn't want to be sold to. And I think we forget that, like, no one actually likes being sold to. Really, I don't know. I'm sure maybe there's a 1% or something, but I don't. Like,
no,
I think pushy salesman, and that's what you're doing on Shop, like with QVC. It feels like pushy sales, and I feel like there's so much scope for someone to just be chilled with it.
I also think there's a thing in marketing where you talk about people don't buy products, they buy solutions. There's an old Harvard professor called Theodore Levitt, and he said people don't buy a 1/4-inch drill piece, they want a 1/4-inch hole. Like, that's what they're looking to. And then you can expand that out and go, well, what, are they hanging a TV? Are they putting a shelf? What goes on the shelf? It's all those kind of things.
Yeah,
and
that's
what
to improve their KD. Like, that's what that's it. Like,
that's it.
But
exactly.
You're not selling the DPI or like the new sensor. Like, you're selling the fact that it can improve their gameplay.
Exactly. It's the difference between features and functions and the actual solution to a problem. And I think you're absolutely right. If somebody can get that right, then we'll be in a good space. Listen, man, I don't want to take. I'm aware of your time, and you, unlike me, you've got an actual job. So I appreciate you taking the time to chat to me. It's been incredibly insightful, and I really appreciate it. What's next for you? What's next? You got anything you want to plug for Logitech?
Nothing. No, I don't like. I try not to. I am gonna actively. I've said it a few times, and I'm getting better. But I'm gonna start trying maybe putting these things out, like the things we've just spoken about creators. I feel like I've got a lot in my head around that might help people out. Even just about social in general. Like, I get a lot of not inside information, but you know what I mean. I'm quite well connected on that side of things. I think for me, like, my big thing this year was to try and put out more content, and I've done bits and bobs of it. But I think that's something that I really want to like ham into, like go crazy on this year. It's just time, which is always like finite. Like Logi wise, no, like I think hopefully one other thing I'd add for creators that I think is a good thing to do. You can quite easily find me, Morgan, on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. You can do that for most other brands. In fact, if you go on my following, it's either not big creators, it's either creators and or other people from other brands that do similar jobs to me. And they are, I don't know, Ubisoft creator manager or whatever, like that kind of person. You can find all those people on Twitter. Do not DM them with a cold reach out, but wait for them to tweet and just engage with a couple of tweets. And just be known on their radar. Then when something comes up work-wise in a couple of months, they know who you are. That you had a conversation about, I don't know, whatever, Rainbow Six the other day, and they know who you are. They thought you were quite cool. And then when you reach out and you're like, hey, saw this new thing came out, I'd love to do a stream on it or whatever. They're gonna reply, because it's like, make friends first, not like networking for networking's sake. Do you know what I mean?
Actually engage with people authentically.
Just have a chat with people. Again, I am a human person. I do just like chatting with people.
I really nearly because I was in marketing for so long, I'd kind of written Twitter off, because you very rarely use it as like an advertising platform, which is where I was in, really. I'd written it off, and then I was speaking to another creator, Callin, who was the one that actually got me the invite for the Logitech event.
Yeah.
She's phenomenal. She gave me a list of people to go and like, hey, these are all the people that I think you should be following, and they were all on Twitter, and I was like, and then I went on there, I was like, Jesus Christ, everyone's here. Everyone's here.
Yeah. The gamers never left Twitter. Everyone else did.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
Gamers and like news, football news. That's like Twitter for me. Like that's all it is, gaming news and football news.
Well, I used to use it a lot personally for like, my personal kind of newsfeed type thing. And it was great, but just as a marketer. So I kind of treated this content creation as a marketing exercise, and I was like, well, Twitter's dead, isn't it? So, and then I went on there, I was like, oh, actually, this is really vibrant, and it's like the best place to interact with brands, interact with the 100%. Creators, and they're all very different on there. The stuff they're talking about is much more kind of insider industry rather than like TikTok is a consumer platform. The creators on TikTok are talking to consumers; they're not talking to other creators for the most part.
Yeah, Twitter's a bit different, isn't it? It is still what. I think it is still partly what it's set out to be. It's just like a tweet. It's just a fleeting thought, or like a kind of hot take on stuff. Like I do think there are still elements of Twitter that I remember having joined Twitter in the really early days of what it was. It was just like out for coffee today, and it literally just used to be a general life update. Has anyone ever wondered why? Like it always used to be stuff like that. Like it did used to be fleeting tweeting kind of moments. It's still there. I still think it's especially gaming's definitely got high value to it.
Yes, it's phenomenal. Listen, man, honestly, such great stuff, and I'd love to see more content from you if you do have the time, because I think the stuff that I think we all get this impression that the stuff that we know everybody knows, but I think there's a lot that that not everyone's going to know, both on the kind of content creation and the kind of that kind of inside baseball type stuff. It's we'd all love to hear it, I'm sure. So I'm excited to see that. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this and speak to me. And I'm sure we'll have to do it some time again in the future, because I feel like there's a million and one things that we could talk about.
Let's do it. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it, mate.
Appreciate you, man.